Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Kaufman. Welcome to our 227th installment in the Torah portion of the week. We are holding by Parshas Chukas. Parshas Chukas talks about the red heifer, talks about Miriam's death, the lack of the water, the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu hits the rock, he doesn't speak to the rock, and he's not allowed into the land of Israel. Talk about the attack of Amalek, the death of Aaron HaKohen. Quite a bit to talk about over here. So we're going to speak about the beginning of the Parsha, chapter 19. Torah tells me that Hashem spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying, "This is the decree of the Torah which Hashem had commanded, saying, speak to the children of Israel. They shall take to you a completely red cow, which is without blemish, upon which a yoke has not come." Right? So the Torah tells me, again, chapter 19, verse 1 and 2, speaks about the red heifer. Now, the red heifer, in general, is a decree we don't understand. Right? It's a decree that makes no sense, even though we'll say 80% of the Torah doesn't make sense. Here is a totally different thing. Right? Why? Because the reality is that when it comes to the red heifer, the Kohen took the ashes, burned up the red heifer, took the ashes, put it on someone who was impure, made them pure, and made the Kohen impure at the same time. Right? So that doesn't make logical sense. The quintessential law of the Torah we would call a chok. Right? A chok is a law which we don't understand at all. Right? There are two opposites here. Right? The Kohen makes someone pure, and at the same time, he himself becomes impure. Right? It's illogical. Seemingly illogical. Says King Solomon, it's one of the few things he had a little bit of difficulty understanding. Right? For us, we have to understand that it's a decree. Right? It's a divine decree. And therefore, we have to learn about it. We have to try and understand it. But essentially, we have to realize it's a decree. Now the Rambam, in his Mor Nevuchim, in the Guide for the Perplexed, so he set out in order to try and answer up, the fact that Jews were going astray left and right, based on Aristotle, right, based on Socrates, etc. So he answered up their philosophy, with Torah, and explaining why their philosophy is wrong. In all that, at the same time, we have to try and understand why we keep the mitzvahs. But essentially, all the mitzvahs, are a decree. Now, some people will say that, why would I keep any mitzvahs if I don't understand them? Right now, the question is, how much do you have to understand? The Torah tells me you have an obligation to eat matzah on Passover. You have to sit in the sukkah. You have to shake the lulav. Make blessings. Keep Shabbos. A lot of things that we have to do. Some things make a little more sense. Some things less sense. But a person can have a certain mentality. And that mentality can tell them, you know what? I don't fully understand it. And if I don't fully understand it, why should I keep it? Another example of a law we don't understand, it would be a chok. And that is the law of shatnez. Because the Torah tells me I'm not allowed to wear something that has wool and linen. A jacket, a sweater, etc. Unless somebody checks it. Because if something says 100% wool, how do I know there's no linen? I have to have it checked by someone who obviously knows how to check. So now the question is, why? Why is the Torah telling me that? Right? So there may be reasons behind it, but we don't understand. Right? It's no different than the red heifer. Another example, laws of kashrus. Torah says I'm not allowed to cook a calf in its mother's milk. Now, there are any number of reasons, for the laws of kashrus, why certain animals you're allowed to eat, certain animals I'm not allowed to eat. Right? But in the end, it's a law we don't really fully understand. Right? If I take milk, totally kosher, I take meat, totally kosher. I put them in a pot. I heat it up. It's forbidden. Why? Because the Torah tells me it's forbidden. It doesn't make logical sense. Kashrus is a big part of a Jew's life. Separate pots, separate pans, separate sponges, separate silverware, cutlery, depending where you're from. Everything has to be separate. Why? Because I might mess it up. So you say, well, I don't really fully understand it. Okay. Did you look into it? Did you try and understand it? Some things, ultimately, we're not going to get to the bottom of why. It's our obligation to try and understand it to the best of our ability. But Judaism is about action. Judaism is about doing something. It's not thinking so much about it that, well, if I fully understand it, then I'll keep it. Well, that's a crock. It's a crock because people use it as an excuse. People say, what? Shatnez, come on, give me a reason. Okay, let's say, all right, I'll give you X reason. No, I don't like that reason. Now I'll give you another reason. Okay, I don't like that reason. So let's say I give 5 reasons. You don't like any of them. So what am I supposed to do? You don't like any of the reasons. It may not be the reason. But a person can use it as an excuse. They can say, well, I don't fully understand it. Why would I keep it? You know why you would keep it? Because God said to keep it. Because we believe the Torah is true. So you say, well, I'm not sure. Why should I keep it? Then you have to understand. Did God speak on Mount Sinai? Or he didn't? Did he give us the Torah or is it made up? Right? That's the basis for everything. So if it's all made up, it's all make-believe. You're right. Why bother keeping it? Why bother doing anything? Oh, it's a custom. So what? Got better things to do with my time. Then eat matzah costs $100 a pound. Right? It goes down pretty rough. I clean my house like a crazy person. Why would I do that? No, it's a custom. Forget the custom. Enjoy life. The prophet says, eat, drink, and be merry, lest tomorrow I die. So people live in fantasy. They like fantasy. But why would you keep anything? They want to have some connection to Judaism. I get it. As watered down as it'll be. They'll do things, they won't do things. Probably a lot of things they won't do. The point over here is, God gave us a Torah. God gave us obligations. If we understand it's God-given, we'll take that at face value. If we understand it's God-given, then don't you think it might be a little bit hard to understand? Right? If I was writing the Torah, and I want to convince people it's a godly book, wouldn't I make it 10 times easier? Less mitzvahs? Less ritual? Make them do a few things that they can do, that they understand, that make sense. The fact that Torah says so many things, seemingly illogical, a lot of them. So, someone will say, well, you gotta have a leap of faith. So we believe the Torah can be proven. Many different ways. You want to look into it? No. I'll take fantasy. Okay. But see, we can get caught up in all the philosophical mumbo-jumbo, which most people aren't going to. They're just interested in fulfilling desire. That's all they want. They want to fulfill desire. So if they want to fulfill desire, it has nothing to do with truth. Truth is irrelevant. So yeah, we like to understand things at a very high level. But we won't. Because a lot of this is hidden. We'll make sense out of some of it. But see, we believe with knowledge. So since we can prove a lot of the Torah, I don't have to prove all of it for it to be true. But I still have to keep it. I don't understand a lot of things. But I still have to learn. I have to learn the intricacies of the laws of Shabbos. Or, God forbid, you'll transgress. I have to learn the intricacies of kashrus, of the holidays. If I don't prepare before the holidays, what's behind the holidays, what I'm doing, A, you're not going to enjoy it. B, why would you want to keep it? Well, we go to synagogue for a whole bunch of hours on Rosh Hashanah. You know, we hear the cantor chant. We're pretty bored. But that's what we do. We're Jews. That's what we do. Doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun. Right? And even if you understand it, it's not easy. You're in synagogue many, many hours. You know, then you eat and do, you know, and then you pray and you eat. And there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do in this world. And there are so many people out there who don't have a clue, you know, what they're doing or why they're doing it. Right? Even people, we'll call them FFBs. People from birth, grew up religious. How much have they really delved into it other than the fact that they're going to keep it, hopefully, otherwise they're going to fry in hell forever? Well, you're not going to reach a very high level by doing that. You know, you're just trying to push off the punishment, but God knows you're just going through the motions. Going through the motions, we mentioned many times, is akin to spiritual death. A little bit of my Hasidic side here coming out. You got to fight for Torah. You got to work hard. You know, you have to delve into it into a way where we can understand it at our level. And there are higher levels. But I think when you see the bigger picture and you understand how all the pieces fit together, okay. It takes a while to do that. But when you see it, it's amazing. Problem is, we always say you get beaten down in life. So when you get beaten down in life, it's hard to smell the roses. It's hard to enjoy. Because we're too busy thinking the cup is half full. You know, I spoke to someone earlier, and, you know, they had difficulties. Number of difficulties they've had to go through. You know what I mentioned, but you're so fortunate. Look at all the good fortune you've had over here. This went easy. This other thing went easy. Okay, doesn't mean you didn't have difficulty. And now, you know, you push the thing behind you. You know, you're moving on. But how are you looking at life? Are you looking at life like, oh, this is so hard. How am I ever going to function? Being miserable. You know, that'll kill a person. You know, I went to a mourner's house the other day, and a friend of mine's father passed away at the age of 100. And he told me that, you know, his father lived with such great joy. And it's proven in science, right? People like that. It's shown that a person has a positive outlook to live longer. You know, aggravation, thinking about aggravation, you know, weighs a person down. Can cause people to actually be physically sick. So I'm not saying anytime someone goes through difficulty, just blow it off. Right? You got to put things in perspective. Yes, life is hard. Sometimes life seems impossible. But let's look at the bigger picture. Let's look at all the things I have to be thankful for. Right? As I mentioned a number of times, write a list. 10 things you are thankful for. And then when you're ready to rip up the list, when you're really upset and things are hard, before you rip it up, read it. And then read it again. Then read it a third time. Let the anger dissipate. Not saying the anger is not deserved. Maybe it is. But when you think in the bigger scheme of things, of how it all works, and what would you really be thankful for? Basic things. Air, water, food, roof over our heads. Plenty of things to be thankful for. You know, but we complain. And this is bad. And that's bad. And this is hard. But it may all be true. May very well be true. But what about all the good? Why do I forget all the good? Because the evil inclination destroys us. The evil inclination does not want you to live an inspired life. Or it wants you to live an inspired life, and then you're gonna fail at other things. So you're gonna say, well, I can't win either way. And the answer is you gotta take things in perspective. You gotta think about what you do on a regular basis. You gotta take stock of your life. And you gotta realize and live this, the fact that everything's in the hands of God. People say, what do you mean? I work hard. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes not. But everything's done by me. They forget about God over here. It doesn't matter what a person knows. It doesn't matter how big their IQ is. It doesn't matter how great they are in X, Y, or Z. That doesn't mean you're going to make money. The only reason you're going to make money is because God wills it. But you could have the same, do the same thing as someone else, just as good marketing, and he's making a lot more money. So then you'll tweak it. And you'll tweak it again. You try this, you try that. You have to put your best foot forward. That doesn't guarantee success. We think success is guaranteed by what I do. Plenty of people with barely an education made millions. There are people with degrees and this and that, and they struggle. So it's not logical. You would say the more degrees, the more they know, the more qualified, should make a lot more money. They should, in theory. Doesn't always work out that way. And the reason is because there's an X factor. The X factor is that God runs the world. That's the X factor. But we have to put in our lives, put in our minds, put in our psyche, I live with the Ribono Shel Olam. I live with God. What does that mean? It doesn't mean I just have a leap of faith. It means my Rebbe says, during this difficult time of Corona, the Rebbe says the mantra is, God, you're the one in charge. Right? That's what he told people to say on a regular basis a number of times during the day when people are having difficulty. People are having crisis in faith, so to speak. And being thrown around and all kinds of things. That's the mantra we forget. So you're going to say, what do you mean? I pray 3 times a day. I do mitzvahs. Make blessings. Keep Shabbos. How can I ever forget? Because we don't stop to think. If we stop to think for a split second or a few seconds, and you say, why did I just do this? Why did I just say that? Let's say that forbidden speech. We can think of all kinds of things we do that are wrong. In the end, we're overcome by desire. We don't think. It's about time we stopped and thought. What do I want out of life? What are my goals? Am I doing the right thing to get close to God or not? I should look at every event that I do. Does that help me serve God or not? Even if you tell me really it's not forbidden, and let's say it's not going in the ways of non-Jews and all that, did it make me a better servant of God? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, or you're in doubt, then you shouldn't do it. Even if it's not necessarily forbidden. Because either we're going up on the spiritual scale, or we're going down. There's nothing in between. So, when the Torah tells me this is a decree, really, we should look at everything the Torah is a decree. Doesn't matter, we understand it more, we understand it less. Make it more enjoyable if we understand it more. But in the end, God says, in my language, just shut up and eat the matzah. Just shut up and pray. That's what you got to do. Because that's what I told you to do. And that's going to draw you closer to me. But you have to do it. You can't just go through the motions. You can't just say the words. That's not prayer. I'm not talking about Kabbalistic intention. These are basic things. But see, if we would look at everything as a divine decree, forget about loopholes. Forget about, well, what if I did this or what if I did that? There are no loopholes. Do it because that's your obligation. But do it with great joy. Right? That's what we say every day in our prayers in the morning. Ivdu es Hashem b'simcha. Serve God with great joy, with great love. Is he going to say, Rabbi, it's hard. Life is hard. It beats us down. Okay. So let me ask, eat a nice piece of cake. How do you feel? Bloated, lethargic, but it was good going down. Right? It's the same thing by Torah. Right? Not that you're going to feel lethargic afterwards. It does make you tired because you have to think a lot. But think about something that you learned that you got most of it. You grasped it. It inspired you. Did that make you righteous? Did it make you righteous? Did it make you want to learn more Torah? Yeah. That's the idea. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, right, it says in Ethics for Our Fathers, mitzvah goreres, mitzvah avera goreres avera. Person does a mitzvah, he wants to do more mitzvahs. Person, God forbid, transgresses, he'll go in that path. Right? You say, maybe there's a mixture. Maybe I do the right thing, but I also sin. But you see, if you're caught up and you're excited about what you do, aren't you really going to feel bad when you do the wrong thing? 100%. But you may end up doing the wrong thing at some time. We always have to be on guard. Torah is something you got to fight for. Torah is not something that's going to be, handed to you. Right? And this is where we have crises of faith. Because we'll say, wow, this is the decree. This is the decree of the Torah. Right? As it says over here. Right? This is the decree of the Torah which Hashem has commanded. Right? I.e. the red heifer. But really, the entire Torah is a decree. This is just seemingly more of a decree because it's a contradiction in terms. But at the end of the day, we have to get the message. The message is, I have to do what God says no matter what. And it's not about a leap of faith, it's about through understanding. It's about through proof. Right? Who's not going to keep the Torah if it's just a leap of faith? Who's going to want to keep it? That's for Christians. They only have faith. Because a lot of their stuff makes zero sense. Not to mention being inaccurate and all that. So when we talk about belief over here, Exodus chapter 20, verse 2, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am the Lord your God. How do I know? Well, God knows. But how do we know? Because he took you out of Egypt. God intervened in history. How do I know he intervened in history? Because we have a Passover Seder. 4 generations. At the Passover Seder. Father has an obligation to tell over to the son. There are a lot of proofs. But you say, Rabbi, I don't need the proofs. I believe. Very good. But you got to keep that belief fresh. You got to live it. When we say blessings, you got to mean it. Yeah, we keep Shabbos, say words of Torah at the table. Sing at the table if you can. Make it special. Give it over to your kids in a beautiful way. As much as we can. Because if we do that, they're going to want to keep it as well. They're going to want to go in the right direction. Now you're going to say, there are a lot of mystical things about Shabbos. True? Just about anything. We can find mystical things in it. We don't care about mysticism. Kabbalah is irrelevant over here. It's about taking it, understanding to our level, and doing it day in and day out, week in, week out, without getting bogged down and doing things like, we're doing things, by rote. That we can't do. We can't have that because that's akin to spiritual death. So every day is a new day. We're a new creation. Our soul comes back, hopefully, when we wake up in the morning. So we have to keep it to the best of our ability. However much we understand. But that's why we have to constantly learn. That's why we have to constantly review. In order to realize what it is and how much I really don't know. But you'll say, it's hard. I didn't say in this entire video it was easy. Never made that claim. Meaningful, getting close to God, doing what he says, regardless of whether you understand it or not, to whatever level, that's what you got to do. And the more you do it, the more it becomes second nature. The more I understand, the deeper I understand. But if I just keep going through the motions, doesn't matter how long I keep it, that's all it is. Right? And at some point a person's going to have a crisis. Because he doesn't really believe. Just doing things for whatever reason. Then once a person gets a crisis, what does he do? It's not fair. Why is God doing this to me? What happened to all the Jewish philosophy? What happened about understanding where everything comes from? What happened about reward and punishment? What happened about their ramifications for what I do? You know, people don't think about these things until things happen to them. Things happen to someone else and wow, you know, thank God it didn't happen to me. But when we're tested, question is, do we rise to the occasion? Right? Do we rise to the occasion? That's the word. Or not? Do we crumple? Do we just become meek people and go hide in the corner? You know, we spend our whole life. And King David says, you only get 70 years. If you have strength, you get 80 years. But we're given a lifetime over here to fix up whatever we have to fix up. And God gives us a golden opportunity to draw close to Him. You don't want to take it? You want fantasy? It's your choice. You want to make excuses? Also your choice. But you can actually have this close connection. You know, and, you know, at a relatively high level. Because the more you learn, the more you uncover. The more you uncover, the more you realize you don't know. Right? That puts fear of heaven in a person. That shows humility. That's what it does. But see, we have to be the vessel to be able to hold it. And even if we do a little bit every day, it's going to, you know, over a while, it's going to take hold. We're going to see the bigger picture. We're going to want to do more. Right? And that's what beats down the evil inclination. To say, oh yeah, it's a decree, you don't understand it, and you'll never understand it in 10 lifetimes, so why bother? And then, so you take the evil inclination and say, you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe you're 100% right, but you know what? I'm not giving up. I'm not going to give up so quickly. So a person will say, God, you know, you want to trash me around? Or thrash me, that was the word. Thrash me around, make life difficult, I'm still going to serve you. Still going to do what I need to do. Right? That's godless Adam. That's the greatness of a person. Because we can say, even if we don't fully understand, doesn't really matter. We're still going to keep it, but we're going to work hard to try and understand it. But a person shouldn't think, you know what? It's so deep, I'll never understand it. Not true. We'll understand it at our level. Some more, some less. And then we'll say, you know what, we're going to do it anyway. Because this is the best. This is what's going to help me reach my potential. Make us the great people we can become. I want to remind everyone I have a class on duties of the heart. Every Tuesday just started a new gate of self-accounting. That's Tuesday, 9 o'clock New York time. I have class on Book of Leviticus every Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. I have Tanakh Talk every Monday, 2 o'clock Eastern time, 9 o'clock Israel time, 2 Q&As Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time, Pirkei Avos every Saturday, 2:30 Eastern time, 9:30 Israel time. I have conversion classes. Anyone interested in any of this, find me on Facebook, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com.